God, it's July now. It's July 8th. It's the fucking Patreon podcast for July. We're in it now. I hit record. It's happening. Oh, fucking hell. Recording this one very late in the week because this week has been shit show. There've been good moments, but, schedule has been completely off. I've not been hitting any of my goals on time this week for a lot of, IRL personal reasons that I don't want to get into here just yet. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, which I don't even know if Twitter's still going to be a thing by the time this comes out. If you follow me on Twitter, you might know a little bit of it, because I think I tweeted about a couple things just out of sheer frustration, but, a lot of shit going on behind the scenes right now, and that combined with having to take a whole day off for the 4th of July to focus on doing family stuff and making sure everything gets done, just haven't been as productive as I usually like to be. And because of that, this week's video just came out a few hours ago as of recording this. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about shooting all of this month's videos, which I did on last Saturday. And good God, was that a nightmare. It is getting way too hot to be shooting outdoors. By the time I was into the second video, I had sweated through the sunscreen I put on, and it was just miserable. I tried to shoot a lot of them standing in the shade, and I feel like that helped out a little bit, but it was still really, really bad, and I'm kind of worried about how bad shooting the videos for August is going to be when that time rolls around, because that is the back half of summer, but it's still summer, and it is getting hotter and hotter by the day. We have had the hottest day on record the last 3 days in a row, which is fucking terrifying. So I don't know. I really don't want to break the streak. I don't want to start shooting inside, but I may have to find some other kind of compromise, or just bring a whole cooler I can dunk my head in between videos or something like that. Either way, did get everything done, and I was mostly happy with the way things came out. I felt like it was a little awkward just because, at times I felt like I was rushing through things so I could finish the video and get in my car and get out of the heat for a few minutes. But, I got everything shot, and it's just a matter of getting it all edited and up on time, which, again, obviously didn't happen for this week. But did get the video out, and it's doing okay. I can refresh my channel dashboard here, and having posted it at noon, it is 5 p.m. now, and it's got the check marks next to views and average view duration, and impression click-through rate, whatever the fuck that is up by 2.5%, so I guess the video's done well. I don't know. I feel like it's going to take 24 to 48 hours to really know. And given that it's on a topic I don't normally cover, and it's kind of meant to introduce that topic to the channel, I feel like I'm not going to know if the video is done well until it's been out for because the Star Wars video I really thought was going to do okay. I gave that video every chance I could to succeed, and it ended up bombing, and I screwed myself up even more by having another Star Wars video come out 2 weeks later. And with how bad both of those videos did, I don't feel like I'm ever going to talk about Star Wars on the channel again, which kind of sucks, but I do hope this G.I. Joe video does well, because I really love G.I. Joe. It's one of my main interests these days, so I would like to be able to talk about it more in the future. And I did have plans for multiple different G.I. Joe videos at one point, and this video has actually, because of that, technically been in development since the start of the year, because I had a few different videos about okay, here's the G.I. Joe I grew up with, here's a more general view of G.I. Joe, here's modern G.I. Joe, here's my thoughts on classified series. Literally one of the first videos I wanted to do this year was going to be classified series has always been great, you cowards, because A lot of people didn't like the first couple waves because it deviated a lot from the classic designs for characters and tried to do something new and interesting that I really liked, but all the old fogies in the fandom complained about so bad that they actually changed the aesthetic of the line to be more so scaled up versions of the real American hero figures, which I also enjoy, but I'm still like, there's a lot of great designs that probably got left on the table because of that violent shift they had to make, and that really sucks because I was enjoying that whole design philosophy. And I kind of got a little jab about that into this video, and there was like a whole 2-minute segment devoted just to talking about how great Classified series is, but obviously all of those videos kind of got condensed down into this one, just hey, here's why I like G.I. Joe video. And even just a couple of months ago, when I was conceptualizing, I thought okay, maybe we could start with a video about G.I. Joe, and then we could bookend it. The last video of the month would be here's some of my favorite Classified series figures, but because of how much I screwed up the Star Wars thing and the Star Wars thing not going over well, I decided it's safer to just make it one big video, and if it goes over well, then I can do more specific, here's these Classified series figure videos down the line, and hopefully that does work out, that does be a thing, but I'm not getting my hopes up. I don't want to have another Star Wars where I was this is going to be the beginning of a new frontier for the channel, and then it ended up not really. But I got most everything I wanted to say about the franchise out in that one video, just a lot briefer than I would have wanted to say it, so I feel like it's okay. I mean, like I said in the video, it's not as structurally sound as a lot of my videos, because it was just okay, gotta talk about this, gotta talk about that, gotta talk about the other thing, and I kind of had a pre-rehearsed version in my head, but I deviated from it a lot, and I had to stitch it together a lot in editing. But yeah, there's not that much else I can talk about right now, because like I said, I don't want to talk about a lot of the IRL stuff that's been holding me up this week, and there's not much to say about the 4th of July except, I was in full uncle mode all day. I was casually sipping on beer, I was grilling, I was doing fireworks, I was entertaining the nephew however I could. It was a good groovy time, and it was a nice relief from the fact that the day before there had been just maximum BS. Minor BS throughout the week after that, which is what held up the G.I. Joe video so long. It's out now. You kind of got the behind-the-scenes scoop on it of had to kind of piece it together both over the months of conceptualizing Freedom Month and whatnot, and in editing, because there was a lot of me going okay, that sounded good, but let's try saying it this way instead, or I'd be halfway through and I'd go oh, I should have said this towards the beginning of the video, let's just say that now and let's rely on future me to put it where it's supposed to go. And in editing I was I think this goes here, and I'd have to rewatch what I had edited so far from the start to make sure it was all work. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully next week goes better. Hopefully the Captain America video comes out in a somewhat timely manner next week, and hopefully I can get the rest of my to-do list done in the next couple of hours before it's time to do modular components, because yeah, I'm real behind on shit. So I'll see you guys in a week. Now we are on to 14th. Sorry if it's a little more tinny or background noisy than usual this time around. I've got the house AC going because It's fairly warm out, and I like cold. Anyway, on the whole, this week has been a bit better than last week. It's still been a little grueling, a little bit of bullshit here and there, but I have been working some things out. Like, by the time this comes out, you guys will have already heard the components episode that came out today, where I talked a lot about all the annoying bullshit that's been going on with my car, and I can provide an immediate, but not immediate update, because isn't recording and releasing scheduling fun? About that, in that, my car is released from, or my license is released from the suspension. I went there just the other day, got I got the new insurance. I took that over there. They confirmed that it was in their system. Paid the $600 to get the suspension fee taken off. Paid another $25 to get a new license made, because you have to surrender your old one, and then they make you get a new one. Thank God I didn't have to take the test or anything like that. It's just like, pay us money, we'll make you a new license. You gotta take a picture and all that fun stuff. So, did that. That is now sorted. And now, what needs to happen is I need to get the car itself insured. Because apparently an SR22 insurance is just like a personal thing. It's like a governmental fuck you fee for driving without insurance. You have to have it for a certain amount of time. And then that's like separates from the car you're now driving insurance. And the car insurance is an extra thing on top of that. So I need to now get the car insured. And then I need to get it registered whenever the new title arrives from my aunt and uncle, which I think they will have mailed by now? I'm not sure. I need to check in with my mom about that. And in order to do that, I've also run into the problem of like, hey, funds are nearly depleted for the month. I only really have enough to cover my regular bills, and my mom is kind of low on her fund money as well, so she has been doing this for years and years, since like my dad's health issues started up, but I finally broke down and just said like, okay, where's the place you go get plasma? Where do you do that here in our hometown? I'm gonna start doing that at least once a week, because I just, like, it's funny, government employees, which I technically am because I work for a state community college, are gonna be getting a raise at the end of this month. That will, I mapped it out to, is basically going to amount to an extra $200 per paycheck, but still, I'm still gonna be living paycheck to paycheck even on that, which will bring me up to almost $2,000 a month. I really need to get the extra money I'm going to get from giving plasma at least once a week. So I've gotten that all worked out. I've looked into stuff. I've checked my insurance. I've made sure I had the right paperwork and everything like that. So I'm going to start doing that on Sunday, because it's going to be 3 hours for my first appointment. Appointments are usually an hour, hour and a half, but it's 3 hours because you also have to get a physical before you donate for the first time. But I'm going to be doing that, and once I have that money, hopefully that'll be enough money to go ahead and get the car insured, because otherwise I'm going to have to wait until the end of the month to do that, and I really don't want to do that because I have other things coming up right at the start of the August I'm going to need money for. And I'm also low-key hoping I'll have a little bit money left over on top of that, because Hasbro's been revealing their SDCC exclusives over the last couple weeks, and at least 2 of them I want, and I'm willing to bet it's going to be like $50 to $80 for each of them, so that's fun. Yeah, but like, as I always say, I love toys, I like buying toys, I buy toys whenever I can, sometimes to the detriment of my financial situation on the whole, but I also acknowledge I don't really need toys, so if I have to go without those right away, I'm gonna make my peace with it, because getting the car shit sorted out is much more important. And like, I could dip into some of the money I put on my credit card, and who knows, maybe I will end up doing that anyway, but like, I really don't want to do that. I really want to get these credit cards paid off as soon as possible, and that means not dipping into them anymore. So that's like a whole dilemma I'm dealing with right now in my personal life, but that's been the last couple of days, and there's also been like a lot of entertainment shit that's just been kind of bumming me out. Like, I've kind of come to the realization in the last couple of days that like, I don't really care about wrestling like at all. Like, I think that might have just fully been a phase, which is really unfortunate. Because, you know, for a while there, it was like, no, I like all wrestling. Then it was like, well, I like modern AEW and some indie, and I like classic, old school, like WWE, WCW stuff. And now it's just like, I mean, I still like all that stuff, but I can't watch current wrestling anymore. It's just gotten too convoluted. Every fucking company you look at has like 20 different shows going that each have like a bajillion fucking guys and gals on them. Bunch of different storylines. Everybody's got their own fucking podcast to listen to. It's too much. I've gotten to the point where like, I feel like, you know how people always say like, oh, comics are so impenetrable because there's always so much going on and you gotta be able to keep up. And the MCU is too impenetrable because it's been going for too long and the storyline's gotten too convoluted and involved. That's how I feel like looking at wrestling. And it's really weird because people always say like, oh, that's a big part of wrestling. That's why wrestling is so great, is its endless continuity and it's this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, I don't mind endless continuity. I don't mind references to shit that goes back years and years ago that I may not have even seen. What fucking bothers me is that there is, no matter what company you look at right now, by the way, it doesn't matter if it's WWE, doesn't matter if it's AEW, NWA, Impact, fucking New Japan, All Japan, DDT, what the fuck ever, Rinky Dink down the street. Everybody is just putting out so much content now that we're out of the pandemic that it feels like to keep up with one wrestling promotion is so much work that I'd have to drop two of my other hobbies. And I can't be fucked with that. And I know, like, there are people who say the modern era of wrestling is about picking your favorite guys and just following them to whatever company they go to. But I don't like that. I like sitting down and watching a 2-hour wrestling program once or twice a week and feeling like I've gotten a bunch of little pieces of complete stories that will all be done by the time we get to the next pay-per-view or whatever. And I'm not getting that anymore. You know, AEW used to be the best fucking wrestling company ever because it was just one show a week, one pay-per-view every 4 months, and that was it. That was all you needed to follow. You could follow Being the Elite to get some more information. You could listen to a couple podcasts here and there. You could watch Sammy's vlog. You could do some supplemental stuff if you wanted to. You know, they had their YouTube show that showed the dark matches, but you didn't need to follow all that stuff to get what was going on at every pay-per-view. Now, they've got 3 different fucking TV shows that amount to 5 hours a week. There's, I think, 3 different YouTube shows going on right now, and that's just the wrestling. They also have a reality TV show. Everybody at that fucking promotion has a podcast. The promotion itself has like 2 different official podcasts. There's a bunch of like YouTube miniseries side things. There's a lot of people who have their own vlog YouTube shows, and they try to connect it all and tie it into each other and make it so like you feel like it's all one big happy continuity. And like, I imagine that's cool if AEW is your entire life, but like, motherfucker, I've got other shit to do. I've got a family, I've got friends, I've got my YouTube channel, I've got modular media to look after, I've got fucking toys to open and comics to read and fucking goddamn MCU shit to watch. I can't keep up with all of that. It's gotten to the point where it honestly feels as impenetrable and as much of like a giant media conglomerate as WWE does. And AEW hasn't, I don't even think that company's been around 6 years yet, and it's already gotten to that point. Like, I understand there's this idea in the business world that you need to just grow and grow and grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger to constantly demonstrate that you're successful. But at this point, it is so diluted that I just do not care. Like, I feel like I could have gotten drawn back in with the first episode of Collision if they had made it clear that Collision was going to be its own little island. It was going to be the CM Punk and Friends show. And, like, if they had done something interesting with Punk. And I'm not, like, for as much as I have bemoaned and whinged about the real-life circumstances beyond his temporary departure and the fact that Collision had to be made, I could have gotten back into it if they had done something really interesting with him as a character, if they had either made him go on an apology tour and become, like, the hero of that show, like the main character of this 2-hour wrestling show that happens every week, and that was just the CM Punk verse. Like, give him, do the thing everybody used to say was a thing with Cody Rhodes, and give us the CM Punk verse, where everything that happens with CM Punk on Collision feels disconnected from everything else. Because then that's a simple one thing I can follow. If they had done that, or if they had him go hard into being a heel. Like, if they had just gone one way or the other with it, but instead they went right down the middle. They said, well, they let him do the thing that CM Punk has kind of always been known as, which is he is a tweener who, depending on how you feel about what he's saying, you can boo or cheer. And, like, I get it, that's his brand, that's cool, but that's not interesting anymore. We had almost a full year of that with CM Punk in AEW. And then we had him showing his ass and getting into a fight that he fucking shouldn't be a thing in wrestling in the modern era. And I know people say, like, oh, that fight's not a big deal. There were worse fights like that back in the territory days. Yeah, that's back in the fucking territory days. It's 2022, I believe, when that happened. That might have been 21. I feel like it was 22. But it's fucking, we're supposed to be getting past that. A big part of the appeal of AEW was that it was a wrestling promotion that had the vibe and the look of old school wrestling, but was being made from a much more modern perspective than any other promotion. Had a very open and honest backstage atmosphere, and was trying to be as conscientious to every performer as possible. But then that happens, and it kind of taints everything to the point where there's constant, like, there didn't used to be. People forget. Before this fucking fight happened, AEW used to be like this magical land, unlike any other wrestling promotion, where all you ever heard was that people were having a good time trying to make the best product they could, and they weren't talking to reporters, they weren't snitching on each other, there wasn't any political bullshit, and everybody was just trying to make the best wrestling they could make. Now it feels like every other goddamn day since that fight, there's been some kind of backstage AEW story that sounds like it came from somebody in WWE talking to a dirt sheet. And it's just fucking sad and embarrassing, honestly. And it's kind of ruined wrestling as a whole for me, because, like, I felt like, okay, wrestling is trying to grow and change and get better, both in the quality of its content and the quality of its creative atmosphere. This is the time to get into wrestling and be a wrestling fan. And now, since that CM Punk fight, we have just regressed to the way things used to be, with everybody snitching on each other, and with there just being so much fucking content you don't know what's important anymore, and you feel overwhelmed. It's like, how am I supposed to watch all this fucking wrestling in time for the pay-per-view, or in time to watch anything else, or read anything else, or have any kind of fucking life? And it doesn't feel fun anymore. It doesn't feel cool, it doesn't feel interesting, it just feels like a fucking chore. And that's really sad and really upsetting, especially because I have fucking tickets for AEW's South Carolina debut in a couple weeks. And the only reason I feel like I'm still gonna go to that is because my sister still loves wrestling, because she's always been a casual fan. She doesn't care about that kind of stuff. She'll just tune in and watch a couple segments every other week. And that's, so I'm going to be going for her sake, and I'm going to try and have a good time, and who knows, maybe it'll be like the moment where the switch flips back on me and suddenly I'm back into wrestling. But like, that has been really weighing on me this week, how frustrated I am with wrestling as a medium, and just wore out, and like, I don't even know why some of it is on my feed anymore. But that is also a huge fucking tangent for this podcast, and I apologize if you don't care about wrestling or you didn't find that interesting. I just had to get that off my chest, because like, I don't even feel like I could talk to Boingo about that, because his attitude about that kind of stuff is like, well, I'm not caught up anyway, I'm months and months behind, so who cares, whatever. And like, he's perfectly fine and justified in feeling that way, but he's also the only other wrestling fan I know, so when I can't like get a proper challenge on that opinion or get it reciprocated, it's really frustrating, and I feel like I just have to talk at the microphone about it. So I don't even know if I'm gonna fucking leave that in. I might cut that out, because right now I'm not even that frustrated about anything. I'm actually in a kind of good mood, because I have the place to myself tonight for the first time in a long time. My sister is I don't fucking care where, and my mom and my nephew are in the next state over visiting my niece's adopted parents. And so until they get back tomorrow at around 6-ish, I have the place to myself, and I'm pretty stoked about that. I'm gonna drink and eat and open toys and listen to podcasts as soon as I'm done recording this podcast. I'll probably watch the new episode of Blazar first, though. I'll probably have dinner and do that. And then tomorrow I'm going to get up, I'm going to clean the place from top to bottom, and then I'm going to get as much work done as I can before they get back. And it's gonna be a pretty busy day, because we got Elma coming on components, we got to record Saturday morning panels, and I've got a bunch of side tasks that I need to get caught up on, and hopefully will. But you guys probably don't care about any of that, probably don't care about the last 18 minutes of this podcast, at least according to Audacity Dark here. You care about video stuff. Let's get into some behind the scenes stuff for this week. First of all, I do want to say the G.I. Joe video is actually doing way better than I expected it to. It just passed 500 views today, and it's gotten a healthy amount of comments, like one every other day, which is really encouraging. Like, somebody even specifically commented, yes, please do videos on the Classified series specifically at some point. And I was like, okay, we're going to work that into the schedule somehow, because I do have a tentative schedule for the whole rest of the year, but I'm not revealing it to you guys or publicly, or I don't even think I've told the rest of Modular Media about it yet, just because, like, card subject to change and such. And that is a perfect example where I was like, I'd like to do like a general overview of the Classified series, or maybe just like a these are my favorite figures of the line kind of video, and I don't know if that's going to do well, but the fact that my general G.I. Joe video has just done so well, and it's gotten somebody who specifically commented and said, I'd like to see you talk about the Classified series specifically some more. Okay, I'm going to try and make that happen before the end of the year. Not exactly sure where or how, but that idea is in my brain pan, and it's sizzling away. But of course, that is not the video that came out this week. This week, the Captain America video came out, and that was an interesting one, because I've always wanted to do some kind of Captain America video. I just wasn't sure how. There was a time, and like when I say always, I mean like as long as I've been a YouTuber. Because like I became a YouTuber right around the same time I was getting into Captain America, like when the first Avenger came out, and I went like, oh, this is really cool actually. Let me look into his comic history and whatnot. And I started becoming more and more a fan of the character. And you know, there was a time where I was like, oh, I could do a big video on the whole of his MCU arc, but I should probably wait until it's over, however long that's gonna take. Oh, I could do a video on this run or that run. There was a really good Marvel Legends of him that came out last year or the year before that I was like, I could do a Captain America I could do a review of this Marvel Legends, and I could kind of like use it as a way to speak about the character in general. And I ultimately decided to go with this kind of overall retrospective on the character. I did have a bit planned where I was like, and these are my favorite Marvel Legends of each character. I have a full Team Cap Marvel Legends collection. Here it is. But I just couldn't figure out a way to make it feel naturally in there on the actual day. I brought the figures with me to campus. It was so hot, and I was in such a flow that like I couldn't figure out a way to naturally divert into, here's this figure. Okay, take 5 minutes for me to put it in its baggie and get the other one out and get back in position on camera, and here's this figure and what I like about it. You know, it just didn't feel natural. And speaking of feeling natural, I'm sure there were some people who were really thrown by the Database Ranger cameo, but I kind of wanted them to. I wanted that to be just like a random joke of like, here's my friend who is also the biggest JMS fan I know, and the only like specific JMS fan I know. There's people I know who like stuff JMS has worked on. Excuse me. But Jake is the only person I know who's like, I love JMS. I will watch or read anything JMS works on. And I know there's other people like him out there. He's just the only person I know, and I've always kind of found that fun and teased him about it a little bit here and there. Like, he loves Babylon 5, and I'm like, well, you should watch some Star Trek. Star Trek's pretty cool. And he's like, Star Trek ripped off Babylon 5 with Deep Space Nine, blah, 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 blah. And like, I say that in a way that sounds mocking. We have fun talking about that. That's not like a mean thing. So like, when I was formulating the video this month and I was kind of doing a dry run through it in my head a few weeks before shooting, I was coming up on the bit where I'm like, and here's all the runs that have happened since the MCU started, because those are all the runs I listed. I skipped over one or two because all the runs I listed are the runs that I read as they were happening. And when I realized, like, oh, I should say something about, like, and we're about to start a new run by JMS, I was like, oh, Jake's got to show up. And it should be a funny, like, cutaway gag, and, like, we should almost kind of lampshade it. Like, he came up with the line about me being on his lawn, which clearly is not what's going on. You can see, like, school buildings in the background and stuff, but I think that almost makes it funnier. Originally, the idea was I was going to ask, what are you doing here? And he was just going to run off to the comic shop. And I was going to go, well, that just happened, as sort of like a nod to how people see MCU humor, and also like a throwback to the old, that guy with the glasses, what are you doing here cameos. But ultimately, I think the way it wound up worked better, because literally, when I came up with that idea, I just immediately texted him and was like, hey, would you be down to do this? I would need it by this date, and it would just literally be 2 shots of you saying something very simple. And he was like, yeah, sure. And then, like, it came down to, I shot, like, 4 or 5 different takes of both my reactions to him, just to give some space for whatever he gave me, because I was like, whatever he gives me, as long as he doesn't completely flub his line, I'm just going to go with it, and we'll find the take that works best, because I don't want to hassle this. And it came down to, literally, I edited the rough cut and got started on the final cut, and then had to go to bed, and then the next morning I woke up and I was like, hey, the rough cut's done, where is that? And he was like, oh, I totally spaced out, I'll have it for you this afternoon. And literally, he sent me like, hey, here's my idea for the iteration on the basic description you gave me, is this okay, can we get MJ in there? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I had it within the hour. And what you saw is literally what he gave me. There's like one bit of the second line that he flubs up and then starts over, but he didn't give me any alternate takes, he didn't give me anything like that. He literally described that as like, here, this is just like giving this a shot, let me know what you think, I can shoot it or get you some more versions of it to work with if you want. And I just watched it once, went, yeah, that looks great. Because I didn't want to have to go back and forth with him. I didn't want to have to make this video take any longer to come out than it needed to. And ultimately, I think it really works. because it's just like a fun bit to throw you off and keep you interested before I end the video. Make sure you're paying attention to the final summation of the point of the video, and it's pretty good. And ultimately, I do really like how that video turned out. The only thing I have like a little bit of regret about is there was a bit at the beginning where I talk a little bit about Cap's creation, or at least a little bit more about his creation, and I ended up having to just cut it completely because, like, the general idea of what I was saying was right, but a lot of the details were wrong. I went back and fact-checked myself because I do not research my videos super hard before I do them. I'm just kind of going off of my own memory and thoughts and feelings. Because, again, the method behind the madness this year is things do not need to be perfect, they just need to exist. But if it's something like that, when I'm in the editing bay, I'll go, well, let's double check real quick. And I went and looked at a couple Wikipedia articles and a couple of old interviews with Joe Simon that have been put on the internet, and I was like, basically all of this is wrong to the point where it could completely invalidate the rest of the video if somebody tears it apart in the comments, so we're just going to cut it. We're just going to remove that, and that's fine, because the video still flows fine without it. It doesn't feel like there's something missing, but it does annoy me a little bit that I didn't check that before filming. Otherwise, though, I'm fairly happy with the video. Do I wish it was doing a little bit better right now, numbers-wise? Hell yeah. It's gotten a few comments. I think the like ratio is still good on it, but it hasn't even cracked 100 views, and it's been out for 2 days, and that's pretty damning for my channel. So, hopefully the Titanium Ranger video really turns things around next week. But, yeah, I've been going for almost 30 minutes, and I want to go eat dinner. So, hope this bit entertained you guys. I will see you in just a minute for you, just a week for me. Bye. And it is now the 21st. And boy, oh boy, how things can change in a week. It's probably already old knowledge for anyone listening to this, but I should probably talk about it anyway for archival purposes, which is a video did not come out this week. I did not do the Titanium Ranger video for the installment of Freedom Month that I had planned because it came out this last weekend that the Power Rangers Lightning Collection was going to be put on pause next year while they try and work out what the hell's happening with the Power Rangers reboot that they've been trying to get off the ground basically since Hasbro bought the franchise, and the Power Rangers fandom had the latest in a long line of collective shit fits for the last couple of years, and I essentially just deflated seeing that and decided, you know what, I don't want to be associated with these people right now. I don't want to be a part of this conversation right now. I don't want to be anywhere near or having anything to do with this right now. So I scrapped the Titanium Ranger video. We made the collective decision, we being myself and Buster Corp, to stop covering Power Rangers on Twit for the foreseeable future, and I ended up scrapping the plans for next month. Next month was going to be a big celebration of the 30th anniversary of Power Rangers, because August is traditionally Power Rangers month, because the air date of the first episode is August, and that's widely recognized as Power Ranger Day. But I've done this rant in like 3 or 4 different places now. I did it on Twit, I did a version of it on Twitter, I did a version of it on a stream on the channel, and you don't need to hear it again. I'm done being a part of that for the time being. I was actually just talking about it on Discord with Database Ranger, because he's one of the few Power Rangers fans I can genuinely call a friend beyond just we like Power Rangers and we talk about it together. We actually rarely talk about new Power Rangers stuff anymore these days. For like the last 2 or 3 years, anytime we've talked, it has mostly just been like, hey, how's life going? Here's what I'm doing with my channel. How's things going with yours? Oh, that's cool. Oh, this life thing happened for you. That's neat, or that sucks. I hope it gets better soon. Hey, look at this other thing that I think you'd be interested in. That kind of conversation. That's what me and Database talk about privately mostly these days. And he brought up while we were having one of those discussions today, just like, so I saw you got pretty upset about something that was going on in the fandom. You okay? What was that all about? And I explained it to him, and he was like, yeah, I get it, but I also like, the Power Rangers fandom has a lot of autistic people who tend to hyperfixate on Power Rangers, and it's one of the only things they're into. So the fact that we went from 40 episodes a year to 22 a year, and then a couple years later we went to, you only get a couple drops a year, and it's through Netflix. You've been cutting these people off from their regular stimulant, and that's why they're getting so regularly agitated. And I'm like, yeah, I get that too, but like, there's other things out there to hyperfixate on, and there's more of the franchise out there other than just what is coming out right this second. Like, I get sick of people being stuck in the current day hype cycle of whatever's coming next, and is it the best or worst thing ever. Like, if that's all you can talk about, then you don't seem like a good fan of whatever it is you're into to me. You need to be able to delve back into and connect with other older things and go like, oh yeah, this is why I like this. Being stuck and in a hype cycle to the point where you live or die with it, which is how it feels like most Power Rangers fans are these days, is just incredibly toxic and draining, and I've got no time for it. So it sucks. I was really into the idea of having a trilogy of themed months right now, but I'm also really into the idea of not allowing myself to be associated with a bunch of morons who can't touch grass and lose their shit about the slightest thing going wrong with their favorite special little franchise. And that's been a thing on the channel in general this year, is trying to distance myself from being the guy who made Megaforce Sucks. I want to be known as a guy who's a fan of many things and is very assertive about his opinions, and if you disagree with him, well, he's not totally closed off to new points of view, but you're going to have to bring some real hard facts and good arguments for them in order for him to change his mind. And that's kind of how I feel about this. Like, I get it that there's some people that Power Rangers is all that they're into, and not having a lot of it makes them very upset and defeatist, but like, go find other things. Go find other tokusatsu. Super Sentai's right there. Kamen Rider is right there. Ultraman is right there. Or, I don't know, read some comic books that aren't about Power Rangers, or watch some movies, or Western TV shows, or, I don't know, fucking go talk to your fucking family or some shit. Don't just sit online all day and go like, oh, Hasbro, you're killing Power Rangers, you suck, and the show's gonna suck when the new season comes out, and it sucks, and it's just bad, I don't like it, and anybody who tells me negative things about the franchise, they suck and they're wrong. And it's like, y'all finally wore me down. I'm not quitting the Power Rangers fandom, but I'm taking a break. I've only got one more Power Rangers video I really want to do this year, and I don't mind holding off of it until like December. So that's kind of where we're at with that, and instead I decided to do a stream on Wednesday night, which went fairly well. There was always like 2 to 3 people in the chat talking to me. I had a hard time keeping up with the chat for once. We hit on a bunch of current topics. I had things to say about, and we had some interesting dialogue about them. And I opened a couple of Lightning Collection figures, actually, and had a good, quick experience with those that didn't feel like I was not enjoying them properly because I was trying to perform on camera too much. And I was like, you know what? this stream went pretty well. I feel like I'm finding a much more enjoyable, easy to do format of like, let's talk about some current events that I'm interested in and then unbox one or two toys, instead of the stream is just literally just me opening and reacting to toys. Like get a good mix of things in there, front load it with stuff that feels appropriate for the channel, and then do something that's a little self-indulgent. And I enjoyed that to the point where I decided, like, hey, let's do a quick poll and see, like, would people be into more of this happening? And, you know, because nobody ever looks at the fucking community tab, it didn't get a lot of votes, but I got enough that pretty overwhelming majority, 80% to 20%, people said, yeah, try and do some more streams. So given that that went well, and given that we're about to head into the fall semester, things have already started ramping up at work to the point where I'm finding myself with less free time and kind of struggling to keep up with things, and already sort of formulating what my schedule is going to look like heading back into the school year without my Mondays off and all that extra time, and needing extra time to work on things and a lighter schedule to accommodate that. We're probably going to go to what I'm thinking is, and feel free to let me know how you feel about this, patrons. I'm thinking I might cut it back to this podcast will come out when the last video of the month comes out, which would probably be the penultimate week of the month. And then the last week of the month, instead of doing a new video, I'll do a live stream, sort of similar to that one I just did this week. And that can kind of be a thing, and maybe I'll try and work out some kind of patron reward that will allow people to have a little more involvement with that. Like, I don't know, because, like, when I used to have a Patreon server, nobody was ever in there, and nobody really used it, but, like, maybe start up a new Patreon Discord server, and it's like you can hop in and be on call with me during a portion of the stream, or all of it. Not really sure, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, something like that, or maybe just, like, a private chat or something just for that. I don't know. Just kind of spitballing here. It's not, none of this is 100% locked in right now, but I am thinking about it, just like I'm thinking about a new lineup for next month now that I'm not doing all those Power Rangers videos. It's probably going to be like, hey, I had discussed it with Buster Corp, and we worked out a rough outline, and now I've kind of been, like, rethinking a couple parts of it, like, obviously taking one out to do a stream, but I've also been thinking about just, like, shifting some things around, what order to do them in, and like, it's not going to be a straight theme month, it's not going to be branded as a theme month, but it's going to be a general, like, hey, I'm sick of Power Rangers fans talking about nothing but Power Rangers and acting like other tokusatsu doesn't exist, so here's some other tokusatsu that I like. Here's one thing from each of the big franchises. Broaden your horizons, motherfuckers. And that's kind of the new idea behind next month. Because of that, and because I already paid Boingo for all the work he was going to be doing for the theme months, I basically said, like, hey, we had discussed, if this all works out pretty well, you doing, like, a new sort of evergreen title smash for the channel, because I want to keep the format of, like, a teaser bit and then a title smash, and there not being end credits, but just an end screen with the patron credit, like most people do anyway, just kind of tightening things up, making it a little more YouTuber-y. I think I might have talked about this in the first installment of this month, but I'm not sure. And in order to keep that up, I'm going to need an evergreen title smash for the channel, so Boingo's just going to go ahead and design that this month, and we're going to use that on the August videos, and hopefully that all shakes out pretty well, because I really could use things getting better in the next couple of weeks, because Also, over the weekend, I had a tire blowout on me. I was on the way home from donating plasma because I've been threatening to start regularly donating plasma to get extra cash for a while, and it just so happened that I actually really needed extra cash this month, so I was like, okay, Mom, you used to donate plasma fairly regularly when Dad was in and out of the hospital. Where have you been going? How much of a pain in the ass is it going to be? Okay, blah, blah, blah. I go and I do my first donation, which took 4 fucking hours, by the way, because you have to go through all these health screenings and sign all these papers and get like a full physical before they can clear you to donate regularly, like to make sure you're not an idiot or a drug addict or anything like that. They have to create a full patient profile for you. That I was told that could take like 2 to 3 hours. It ended up taking 4, and it was just bleh. The actual donating process wasn't too bad, because it's literally just they stick you, and then they tell you how long it's going to be based on how fast your blood is flowing, and then you just put something on your phone and just sit there for like an hour. But going through all the checks and papers and whatnot was extremely tedious. So I get out of there and I'm a little frazzled. I'm just like, okay, I just want to get my money and go home, because they give you like a debit card that they tell you, like, okay, there's a Walmart like 10 minutes down the road. You can go and use the ATM there and get this out and put it on your regular bank card, or just have the cash, whichever you prefer, or you can keep using this. And I was like, well, part of the reason I did this is I need money for bills, so I'm gonna go get this money out, and then I will put it on my debit card and go home. So I put in the Walmart that they told me to go to on the GPS. I'm a little frazzled. It's telling me, okay, go down this far and then make a U-turn, because that's easier than trying to turn in a direction to go to the Walmart straight away. And I'm like, alright, so I drive down to where it's telling me to make a U-turn, and I'm like, I don't know if it's safe to make a U-turn here. This part of the road seems a little small. There's like a sidewalk there that I don't want to mount. I don't like mounting curbs. But it's telling me to do it right here. Okay, I go, and I swear my tire just kinda bumped up against the sidewalk for like half a second, and I heard a really loud pop sound, and immediately my car was leaning to one side, and you could hear like really rickety coming from the front wheel well. So I just drive down to the next gas station, which I had just passed. I park there. Front right tire is completely fucked. I call my mom to come pick me up, because I didn't know what to do, given that I didn't have money for bills. So obviously I didn't have money for tires. I could dip into my credit cards, but I didn't even know what shop to go to or what to do. So my mom comes. We realize there's actually a small independent tire shop across the street that's run by a bunch of Mexican immigrants who like barely speak English. So we go over there, and they're like, yeah, we'd have to go over and put the tire on your car in that driveway, or put the donut on and drive it over, and we're too busy today to do that, so you'll have to find somebody else. Okay, great. My mom recalls she has a friend who works at a tire shop down the road from here, but they're not open today, so So we call her and we're like, hey, can you come out and get us, this, that, and the other thing? And she's like, no, but I think there's somebody at the shop today, let me call and check. And she says, okay, this guy's gonna come and he'll put the donut on your car and drive it back there. We wait like 2 or 3 hours at this friggin' gas station for this guy to show up. And keep in mind, this gas station is in like a weird part of town I don't normally go to, and it is like crawling with crackheads. Just like every 5 minutes, a guy or a gal who's like obviously a crackhead will roll up on a bike and just start hanging around this gas station and leave like 20 or 30 minutes later. And it was just like that the whole time, just total ghetto vibes, for lack of a better term. But this guy finally shows up. He gets the donut out of my trunk. He tells me to go put air in it because there's no air in it. So I take it over to the air machine. I fuck around with it for like 20 minutes. Keep in mind, I know very little about cars. I've changed a tire like once in my life. So I go to do it, and I bring it back, and I'm like, it doesn't feel like it has much air in it, but I had the thing going for like the full amount of time it gave me for $2. And he's like, yeah, this doesn't have any air in it. Let me go try. And he goes and tries, and he's like, oh, the stem's fucked up. We'll have to put a new stem on this donut before we can do anything. And I'd have to take it back to the shop. I don't have the tools for that here. And blah, 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 blah. Excuse. And ultimately, we're just like, okay, we'll wait until the shop is actually open tomorrow. Here's $10 for coming out. And so I go home. We get a call from the lady who just kind of explains, like, all right, here's what you're going to want to do in the morning. Here's when we open. Here's what you tell them. It's probably going to be like $100 for 2 new front tires, $150, I think she said. So get up the next morning, go over there. They're like, yeah, cool, we can do it. It's gonna be $200. I don't have that kind of money. So my mom basically agrees to spot me the money, because it's either that or use my credit cards, and we don't want to dip into the credit cards anymore now that we got them paid down so much. And I immediately go to that, have her take me to that Walmart, and I get her, because they gave me $100 for donating the first time. I give her $80, and I say I'll get you the rest on payday, because that's the kind of person I try to be. And it takes all day, but it gets fixed. The car's fine. And then I ended up going back the next day for my second donation, because second donation was $120, because I still needed that money for bills. And it's just a whole like miserable ordeal that really took time out of my Sunday and Monday, and there was gonna cause budget issues going forward. Like the only like saving grace is just the knowledge of like, oh, that's right, because I'm a government employee and we just passed a new like government budget reform here in South Carolina. I'm going to be getting $200 extra a month from now on, as like a general raise every government employee is getting. So I'll be able to pay my mom back right away, and I probably won't have this issue with bills next month, because I'm also kind of like rethinking my spending and everything. But good Christ, that was a whole miserable ass weekend, because you had that thing with the Power Rangers fandom, and then you had the tires, and it was just like, good criminy Christ. And it really made me kind of like search around and go like, alright, these last few months have been a real slog with occasional fun moments, and it wasn't like this at the beginning of the year. What else have I not been doing that I was doing at the beginning of the year that made me feel a lot better about things? Because I thought a few weeks ago, I thought it was, I haven't been going to the gym as often. I need to get back in a groove with the gym. I did that. Shit's still going wrong, and I'm still feeling rough a lot of the time. I was playing through the Arkham games and watching through Better Call Saul. And then I ended up being too busy in the evening to do either of those things most of the time, and I never got around to playing Arkham Knight or watching Season 6, and both those things have been on my computer since like February. So I finally ripped the Band-Aid on both of those, and hey, both of those are really great. I'm only like 4 episodes into Better Call Saul Season 6, but I'm enjoying it. It's about as good as the show has been. Arkham Knight has been surprisingly good, because for years I've heard people say like, oh, that game was really disappointing, the twist is just really stupid and obvious, and there's way too much of the Batmobile in that game. Like, it's just so much that it doesn't make sense. And I was always kind of skeptical of that, because like I saw what the twist is immediately when the game came out, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I get why they did it the way they did. They wanted the twist to still work, because otherwise comic book fans would have told everybody what the twist was right away. But I also get why people were let down by it, and I don't know where I was going with that. I've been enjoying the story so far, how they're setting up and alluding to it. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense as a Jason Todd comes back story. It would be better if he was just the Red Hood, but the fact that he's a new character, big air quotes, it's a new identity, I guess, is a little weird, but like, it's not terrible. And the actual gameplay has been really fun, because it's just another beefed up iteration of the core Arkham gameplay. Like, the only problem I'm having with it is I'm having a little bit of trouble remembering what like certain buttons do anymore, or how to activate certain things, because there's just so much shit by this point in the games that like everything has moved button positions once or twice between games now, and it's hard to remember like what does what or how to get to what. Like I was playing a section that's like a one of those sequences where you're going from gargoyle to gargoyle stealth takedowning guys, and I usually just stay in detective mode the whole time for those, so I can see where everybody is and kind of pick my targets. For like 5 minutes at the start of that sequence, I was just fumbling around on top of one gargoyle, pressing buttons, trying to remember where the fuck detective mode is, because they moved the button press between Arkham City and this, and I kept hitting the I kept hitting the button for the Batmobile to summon the Batmobile, because that used to just be the quick activate for the detective mode, and it was really annoying. But once I finally got into it, that sequence was fun. And honestly, for as much as the Batmobile is involved, like, I can see why other people were annoyed, but I'm also like, they advertised this game very heavily on, and now here's the Batmobile. You can finally drive the Batmobile in the game, and isn't it cool? And like, normally, like in the Snyderverse, I'm very against the Batmobile having any kind of like gun type weapons on it. Like, I usually hate tank Batmobile, but in a video game is one of the few places that makes sense to me, especially because they go out of their way to say, like, most of this is non-lethal riot suppressor stuff, and all the tanks you're fighting are drones, and the city is empty. It got evacuated because of Scarecrow's big threat. The only people who are left are, like, crazy criminal types. So, like, it's not Batman is in a high-speed chase and frickin' firing armor-piercing rounds, completely destroying a truck, like that one sequence in BVS that I hate. And the Batmobile is actually fairly fun to play as. Like, there's been a couple of jumps that I had to redo a bunch of times, because you had to be aligned just right, and I couldn't quite get it. But once I get past those sections, I'm enjoying driving around in the Batmobile again. Like, the tank combat is, for the most part, really fun and intuitive. And the high-speed chases, while they can be kind of annoying, are at least fun from a story perspective. And the little bit of puzzle solving I've had to do with it so far, like, it's literally the same as all the other puzzles in this game series. It's just now you're doing it with the Batmobile. it's on a bit of a larger scale. And I know to some people, just remembering reviews from the time, it was really weird that just like suddenly you're doing all this stuff with the Batmobile. But I'm also like, well, they probably put a lot of time and effort and money into designing the mechanics of the Batmobile. So it makes perfect sense to me that they're like, okay, we just made this whole new thing for this game. We got to use it as much as possible. We got to feel like we're getting bang for our buck here. And like, there's not been a sequence so far, and I'm only like 20% into the main story. But there's not been a sequence so far that feels like, okay, there's no reason this is the Batmobile. It's ridiculous that I'm using the Batmobile. Everything has been like, oh, I'm working through this problem as Batman, and now I need to use the Batmobile to solve it. And in order to do that, I need to get it up and over this thing, and I need to have it use its winch to pull this thing out of the way, and all of that is like, yeah, it's fairly logical. Would it be more logical if it was just Batman doing that? I don't know, fucking maybe, but that's not the game they made. And the game they made is still fun. Everything still works. I'm still having fun pretending to be Batman in a video game. So, yeah, I don't get the criticism that there's too much Batmobile in this game. But all that's been pretty good. And then today, I had a dentist appointment that actually went really well. My first regular checkup since I did the initial one and started getting all those cavities taken care of a couple of years ago. And there were actually no problems at all. They just gave me a simple cleaning, took new x-rays, and went, yeah, there's no issues. You're doing good. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you again in 6 months. And like, it felt so good to hear that from a dentist, because that's like the first time in my living memory that a dentist has said that to me. It's almost always, you got 1 or 2 cavities, we got to take care of it, or, oh, you got a lot of problems, you'll be coming back here every month for a while. So to hear a dentist basically say, yeah, see you in January, oh man, that was gratifying. And that combined with like some really awesome toy reveals coming out of SDCC the last couple of days has like really given me a bit of a good vibes boost and a confidence of like, because there's a lot of shit besides videos and a lot of video shit that I got to take care of in the next 2 weeks. It is really packed moving from the end of July into August, and I'll probably talk a little bit about that in the next segment, but right now I'm feeling okay and confident about it. But that's just this week. We still got 1 week left in July, and I guess I'll see you at the end of it. And now it is the 29th, and oh boy, this week has been a lot. Let's start off talking about something kind of positive, or at least I feel is positive now. The poll I did on the YouTube community tab for streams went pretty well, I thought. Got about 10 or so people voting in on it, which isn't the vast majority of my subscribers, but I like to think the people who actually look at the community tab for updates and stuff are the ones that really care, and the vote went in favor of doing streams as like a regular monthly thing in place of one video from now on, and I think that's what we're gonna do. What I'm thinking is, instead of doing a video the last week of the month from now on, I will do a stream on the last week, on one night of the week. I'm not gonna nail it down to a specific night, and in my mind this still counts because it's still getting out content on the channel 1 week out of the year, and I imagine doing it during a random weekday night with like 24 hours notice, I'll still get a decent amount of subscribers in there. I'll still have a fairly active chat as long as I'm like not actively counter-programming somebody else who I'm friends with. Like, I'm probably gonna try and not stream whenever Boingo Rider or Buster Corp is, but that is the plan as it stands for that, and that's probably going to be really helpful because, as I said, this last week has been a heck of a lot. I don't want to get too heavily into it, but SDCC did kind of wreck me this year because I tried really hard to keep up with everything for the sake of modular media and for the sake of my own just interest level, because I knew there was going to be a renewed focus on comics and toys this year with the strikes going on, and it was a great show. I think there was a lot of really cool stuff that came out of it, but I didn't even go, and I completely wrecked my sleep schedule coming out of it. Most days this week there have been points where I've been tired and have had a hard time prioritizing what I need to do. There were 2 nights in a row where I came home and for an hour after I sat down and got my dinner, I just played Batman Arkham Knight while eating my dinner, and I didn't do any work until 10 p.m. when I only had 2 hours left before I needed to be in bed at midnight, and that's not optimal. I try not to do stuff like video games or toys until I've done at least a good amount of work in the day, whether that be my actual day job or work for this channel or modular media. And because of that, the Arnold video barely got out within the week, which really upset me because I had to already amend some stuff on that video on the edit. I had to take out a huge chunk of I forget what section it was, but there was a section, there was a section where I started talking about where I'm talking about Arnold's time as governor, and I talked about some of the laws he passed, and I was I've heard that his time as the governor was a generally good time for the state, and overall it was, but while I was editing I was let's just skim the Wikipedia article on bills he passed during his time in the state, and turns out of course he didn't specifically pass them. Government is a much more complex system of checks and balances than one person, but a lot of the bills that passed during his early era were kind of yikes collar pulling stuff for someone of my political persuasion. So I ended up cutting that section, and obviously it wasn't able to have the original ending. I had to record a whole new ending for it because we're not going into Power Month after this. We're going to be doing something else that I'll tell you about at the end of this segment. And overall, it's just not as good of a video as it could have been. I thought I could have tightened it up in a few places. I could have been a little more precise about reasons why I liked him. I tended to just talk about big general sweeping things, and I do still agree with everything I said in the video. I'm just this is one that needed another pass. This needed another round of rehearsing it at lunch, on lunch while I'm at work, before I shot it, and I didn't do that. I had to shoot it on the day, and it's not doing well in the numbers. I'm looking at it right now, and it's only been out for a couple of hours, but already it's kind of dwindling down in views, which is not optimal. But hopefully that period is behind us, because even though the next couple of days are going to be really stressful because I have also been falling behind on work because I couldn't get the video out, and then today I had to spend a lot of time taking care of my nephew because my mom had to go into work on a Saturday because they're doing registration for the new fall semester, and her building is where that happens, so she had to be on duty to clean bathrooms and stuff. Then there was this whole hullabaloo of we've been trying to get a plan for his birthday together for however long, and it's on Monday. We wanted to do it on the weekend because my mom has to work on Monday, and my sister does too, I think. So we ended up deciding okay, what we're gonna do is his half-sister's adoptive parents, who just finalized the adoption process at a hearing this last week, came and picked him up, and they've been running errands with him, and I think right around now actually they should be going and picking my sister up from her place, and then they're all gonna go spend the night at their I forget if it's the adoptive mom or father, but one of their parents' place, which is a really nice lake house. And then tomorrow after I finish shooting new videos all morning, because I'm going to have to get up crazy early to try and beat the heat and then go shoot videos at the crack of dawn on campus. We're going to drive an hour and go do the birthday thing with them, and then we got to bring him back, and I'm somehow going to have to do that and fit in time to get the files off my phone and do news link grabbing for Twit and No Prize, and it's just going to be a whole hullabaloo. And then the next day I'm going to have to hopefully get a jump on this week's video. It depends on where things are at with Twit by then. I don't even know if I'm going to have time to watch the new episodes before Monday, because I've been trying to watch Blazar the night it comes out lately, but I have not had time to. I'm actually really behind on new shit right now, because the new batch of Earthspark episodes dropped today. My Adventures with Superman dropped a new episode last night, and we got Blazar, of course, Blazar Fridays, and I haven't had time to watch anything more than My Adventures with Superman. I made time for My Adventures with Superman before bed last night, but even then it was like, it's already pretty late, do I want to watch this? And there's a bunch of YouTube channels that do regular news programs I follow to keep myself in the loop, and I've been watching those while doing the little like spare amounts of work I can get done in between taking care of my nephew today, and I'm still not finished with those, but after them I'm going to hopefully get started on these Earthspark episodes, and I would like to finish those tonight before I have to go to bed. I'll probably like listen to some and do something, and then I'll have to record Analytical Fanboys, which I only just got in time to rewatch the thing I had picked a day or two ago. I just had it on while I was doing the last chunk of Arnold video editing, and then I'm going to record that, and then I'll have to edit it, and I'll watch the last batch of Earthspark episodes while I do that, and also load up the Tumblr queues for myself in Modular Media, because I do that every Saturday night after I upload Components or Analytical Fanboys, whichever one's happening that week. It's a lot, and then I have to turn around and get up crazy early to go shoot new videos tomorrow, and it just keeps going and going and going. You know, when they tell you the years start coming and they don't stop coming, that's a true statement. I believe in a lot of things Smash Mouth has said with a religious fervor, as you can tell. But be that as it may, I don't want this to be another 20-minute segment of the podcast. We just had 2 of those in a row, and it's also almost 6:30. I would like to get out of here and get something to eat, and then come back and edit and upload while I eat. So that's the plan for the rest of the evening. I think I've gone over it like 3 different ways now. Apologies for that, by the way. I think out loud sometimes, and I guess you caught it on recording this time. But let's talk about what we're doing next month. So obviously, Power Month is not happening, but I wanted to do something kind of similar. And it's not going to be an outright theme month, like it's not going to be branded like Freedom Month was, and like I had planned to for Power Month. Instead, I've got Boingo Rider working on a sort of generic title smash for the channel that I'll be using from now on with the new teaser sort of slight reformatting I've established. But the kind of metatextual, I guess would be the right word, theme for the month is that it's going to be about exploring the different stages of how I got into Tokusatsu and my fandom with the medium, overlooking Power Rangers, essentially. So the first video is going to be a look back at the first Tokusatsu I can remember seeing, which is Godzilla vs. Biollante. That is a movie that a babysitter showed to me on VHS when I was a kid, before I knew what a friggin' Power Ranger was or anything like that. So I want to kind of tell that story in more detail than I just did, and review the movie, because I also just recently, a week or so ago, rewatched it, and I've got some thoughts. Then I'm going to do a video on Kamen Rider Drive, because that's like, when I think of like the toku, that was the peak of me being into superhero time week to week that first time around, when I didn't have a whole lot of people to talk to about it, and I was just gauging general online reactions. Drive is kind of that. Drive and Gaim together, but I want to do Drive because I have more positive things to say about it than Gaim, and I also feel like Drive has been getting a fairly bad rap recently because it is a show that stars a bunch of police officers. And I'm like, you know what, fair enough, but also, have you considered fiction can be about showing a idealized version of reality? Remember my G.I. Joe video? It's going to be a little like that. Then I'm going to do Ultra Q, the first in the Ultra series, because that was from the period where I was first burnt out on superhero time week to week, and I was like, let's try and watch every franchise in release order. And that lasted about 3 or 4 shows, I think. But Ultra Q was the first one, and I think that show's really interesting to discuss from a modern perspective, so we'll do that. And then I'm going to finally do the Jetman video I've been promising since, I think it was February. I have a very specific take on that show, which I don't think I've seen anyone else share, and Buster definitely seemed interested in when I shared it on Twit. So I'm going to try and make a full video about that, and I might also like give some side-eye to the Power Rangers fandom while doing so, because it's the Sentai that immediately precedes Jew Ranger, and it has a message that's very much about like, hey, don't focus on one thing. Try and be a multifaceted person who's always growing and changing, and like, hey, Power Rangers fans, you might have to become that very soon, and it would be really fucking great if you did it without kicking and screaming. And then to end the month, we'll be doing a stream where the main discussion topic, at least for right now, I wanna leave the streams as kind of a card subject to change thing, where it's like, if something really interesting in like current events or news for something I care about happens that I can't really cover on modular media, I want to be able to cover it there. But as long as like nothing like that happens, the plan is to do a stream where I talk about like some of my favorite and earliest experiences with toku tubers, and like ones I'd recommend, ones I'm kind of on these days, that kind of a thing, and just talk about like how online tokusatsu video creators were one of the things that really got me into tokusatsu. And I'll also be capping that off with unboxing a couple of SH figure arts that have been sitting in my too open pile for a while. Ultraman Reboot and Kamen Rider Skull Senchoku Seiho. So hopefully that'll be fun and interesting, and we'll all get to hang out and have a good time, especially because there is going to be a slight change to this podcast going forward along with the streams, because I figure like a good way to key people in to watching them would be to have like, hey, there's always going to be some kind of announcement at the end. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to move this podcast back a week. It will come out after videos are done coming out for the month, and I will still announce the videos for the next month at the end of it, but then I will announce them publicly at the end of the live stream, which will happen a few days later. That way you guys still get the jump on this news, but then I still have that little like key in, ooh, hey, you get to watch this. If you guys really don't want me to do that, if you think that's a really bad idea and that really devalues the Patreon, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I might go ahead and change my mind. But right now I'm thinking like that is just kind of like a fun new wrinkle to add to things of like, hey, if you want to know what videos are coming out, watch the live streams, and if you want to know them before anyone else, give me a friggin' $1. And I mean, like, there's not really much behind the scenes stuff to say about a stream unless there's like a really crazy technical mishap. All I'll really have to say is like, oh yeah, that was a good time, we did this on it, and it's like, you can see that, you can just go watch it. With the videos, it's like, I had to trim this, or there was this thing about the location that you might not notice in the edit but I thought was interesting, or I realized this, or that happened or somebody pointed this out in a comment, that kind of stuff is always going to be there with videos. With streams, it's going to be a lot more instantaneous. If I have something to say about something that's happening during a stream, I'm going to say it during a stream. So that is the plan as it stands for August. Again, card subject to change like always. Let your thoughts be known in the comments down below of this podcast. But for right now, I am going to get out of here. I'm going to go to Target. I'm going to check the figs because I did get paid today. And then I'm going to get like a TV dinner or something to have while I edit this. So thank you all so much for your continued support during the month of July. I know it's been a crazy one. There's been some really weird, unprecedented shit happening with the channel. But you guys have stuck with me as you have throughout this whole year so far, and I always appreciate that. I hope you're having a good night, or a good day, or a good whatever it is, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.